my name is Drew, and I'm the Aspiring Master, and welcome to the Aspiring Master Presents. This is a show where we talk about the meanings, misunderstandings, and insights about the important words that we use and misuse on a daily basis. Really understanding what we are truly meaning while we talk allows us to convey that meaning and be more understood when we are communicating with others. This not only allows us clearer communication so we can get what we need quicker and with less stress, but also allows us to understand ourselves in more depth than we thought possible. Today on our show, we're going to be talking about relationship. So, let's get to it. I don't know, it's a huge word for me. I think it has got a lot of huge meanings in personal relationships that we talk about, but there's so many different types of relationships to be able to cover in this one that it's going to be quite fun to do. Okay, so let's go to Merriam-Webster and let's look at relationship. Okay. So there's 3 definitions here. 2 has an A and B and 3 has an A and B in this one. So it's number 1, the state of being related or interrelated. Woohoo. Okay, so that tells us almost nothing. 2, the relation connecting or binding participants in a relationship, such as kinship, A, or B, a specific instance or type of kinship. Okay. Plainly enough, relation, when people talk about somebody being related, right? We're related. So that means that we're cousins or we're brother and sister or whatever. Right. So they're talking about familial relations. Which is, I guess, one aspect of it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so number 3, A, a state of affairs existing between those having relations or dealings, or B, a romantic or passionate attachment. Okay, so I'm going to go and look at the word relation in relationship to this.
Yeah. Oh, God. Here come the lame jokes.
Exactly. So this has there's a whole bunch of definitions on this one. So relation, the act of telling or recounting. I'm relating a story.
Right.
2, an aspect or quality such as resemblance that connects 2 or more things or parts as being or belonging or working together as being of the same kind. Okay. So, I guess like gears are relational to each other because they work together,
right,
and are the same similar kind. Okay. 3, referring by a legal fiction of an act to a prior date as the time of its taking effect, usually used with back. Okay, back
yeah,
related.
Let's just run from the legal terminology here.
We'll run past that one, thank you. And I don't even understand the way that they have it worded.
I mean, I was a legal secretary for years. I'm not even sure I understand that. I mean, I don't know a lawyer who would use that kind of language.
Okay, a person legally entitled to share of the property in a state, relationship.
Oh, okay, right.
Okay, yeah. Affinity, reference or respect, the attitude or stance which 2 or more persons or groups assume toward one another. They have a relationship.
Right.
Well, I think that I'm just going to go right back to relationship, and I'm going to go, okay, we can talk about this as a romantic or passionate attachment. I agree.
Right.
But when we're talking about relationship in general, it's a state of being related. So
I guess it's just the nature of the relation is what changes between
exactly
them.
It's having a kinship with somebody else. And so
right.
let's take a look at kinship, shall we? The quality or state of being kin, which means related on a blood level. So
right.
Kin. But now here's the thing. When we take a look at how that functions, right? You can have somebody that's like a brother or sister that you can call kin. That's akin to kinship.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So when we're talking about it's a kinship, it is something that I mean, we have a relationship from one thing to another. I have a relationship with this monitor, the screen that I'm looking at. I have a relationship with the light that's shining on me. There is a relationship between me and the thing.
Right.
Like it functions in my life. So if something functions in my life, I say that I've got a relationship. I'm related in relation to it.
Right.
Right? So I have some kind of kinship with it.
Right.
Right? Whether that's just me utilizing the light so that it makes me look better on the screen, which is debatable. But so when I'm talking about relationship, we have, I think, relationships with everything. And so when I'm looking at, I have to lean ahead there, the state of being related or interrelated. So I suppose we should look at interrelated too.
Oh my God. By the time we get to the definitions, we'll be halfway through.
Yeah, I know, right? By the time we get to talking about the definitions.
Yeah.
Okay,
it'll be time
having
for
a
part
mutual or reciprocal relation. Okay, having a mutual or reciprocal, and what reciprocal means, it's giving and taking.
Give and take. Yeah.
Okay, reciprocal is actually that's what it means. Is reciprocating, so it goes forward and backwards.
Well, like transactional.
Right.
Yeah.
It can be transactional, but when I talk about reciprocal, that means that you each give each other something, right? Not necessarily on a mental level, but this light gives me light. So in relation to, it's giving me something. I'm giving something back. I get to turn it on. I give it electricity, and that's what it does for me, right?
And we pay money so it functions.
Exactly. So, and when I'm talking about a relationship, I'm talking about we all have a relationship to everything that's around us. That doesn't mean that it's a transactional relationship, even though it kind of is. I give it something, it gives me something, I have it for a purpose, and so therefore there's purpose in my life. And I think that when we're looking at relationship, we can say that things that are significantly affecting in my life, right? I can say significantly this light affects how I'm seen on screen, right? How the camera that I'm using affects how I'm seen on screen. The microphone that I'm using is how I sound on screen. So I'm standing in relation to any of these things. So I'm standing further or closer. I'm blocking things, right? So I have a relationship with everything, and so when we're talking about relationships, and especially what we need to define here is what we've been using relationship for as people, right? You know, I mean, and here's the big one, I'm in a relationship, right? And when I'm using that, that's a romantic, passionate relationship. That was 3B on that. On that is we use that to describe relationship. But I say that we have relationship to everything that is in our lives. Everything.
Yeah.
Where I'm related to it. I have in relation to something. It does something for me. I do something for it. Whether that's bump me in the leg at night when I'm passing by it. Right? So there is we have a relationship there. Now, if we're talking about emotionally invested relationship, now we're talking about living beings and the relationship that we have with them. So I think that that's what we're going to really define this show about as relationship. We're going to be talking about the relationship that we have with other thinking, feeling beings. Okay? Could be an ant, right? An ant is living. So other living beings, right? Our relationship with them and our possibly emotional attachments to them. And I think that that's of significant importance to this topic, because when we talk about relationship, we say we have an emotional connection or contact with it.
Right.
I think so. Anyway, what do you think?
Okay. Yeah.
She's talkative, ladies and gentlemen. I know she is.
Sorry, my coffee wore off. I know.
Yeah, no more coffee. But yeah, I think that for this show, we're talking about relationship with other living things, okay? That we have invested emotions with. And I think that anything can be a relationship. We have a relationship with our friends. We have a relationship with our enemies, for crying out loud.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
you do.
it's
You
not
do.
a it may not feel great. It may be
No,
something that causes anger, but there
but it is
is a
still a
relationship there.
relationship. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
And I mean, when I was looking at this definition, they said relative. Where is that? Relative. There we are. A person connected by consanguinity, consanguinity, or affinity. So relative. Now here's the thing. One of the things that I know about the word relative, relative means as in opposition to. So, like, I mean, I know we're doing a lot of words here, but
I don't
I
think
think
it's necessarily in opposition.
no. That's thing having a relation to or connection with or necessary dependence on another thing. So
Yeah.
everything is relative, right?
Right.
Because in contrast, if we don't have relativity, if I'm not a relative to that box over here or you over there, right? I'm standing relatively to you. And it's not opposition, but it's in contrast is what it is.
Yeah, that's
We
better.
relative, if I'm standing relative to something, then I'm in contrast with it. And one of the things that I do know about being relative to something else, and in relationships specifically, is that you are contrasted with somebody else's emotions, or like you experience them in contrast to all the other relationships they've had in their lives. For one,
Absolutely. Yeah.
okay, and so you are now being judged through what they've related to
Yep.
with those people.
Yeah,
And
I know it's a big thing with people is to, oh, la la la, don't treat me like, you treated your last girlfriend or whatever.
right,
And it's like, I think that's almost impossible. I mean, obviously you're going to treat people differently based on how they treat you because everybody's different. But it's a little, I think it's a little, I don't want to use the word immature, but I'm not coming up with a better one, to not, to think that your previous relationship is not going to affect your current or your next one.
okay. Well, and also, I think that you are correct, but I also say that all of your relationships up to this point affect your current relationship. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I'm
Right.
talking about your friendships.
Yep.
I'm talking about your acquaintanceships. I'm talking about anything that is relative to what's going on now, right? Like that shows you the contrast between them. Now, I recognize that this show is going to start getting off to a slow start. So for you people out there, stay with it. It's absolutely worth it where we're going. But we really needed to define where we're going to stand on this.
Right.
And because we look at relationships as something with another living being, okay, you can have a relationship with a plant, by the way. You can have because you can share emotions with plants. I know people that do. I know people that go, oh, my lovely beauty plant, and they're really connected. And if the plant dies, it really affects this person. So there's emotional investment. And so what I'm talking about is in relationship is anything that you put an emotional investment in on one level or another. Right? Whether that's an angry level, whether that's a loving level, whether that's just a kindness level, or whether that's just any kind of level that you have with another being, I define as a relationship. You have a relationship with them. They are relative to you. They give you a contrast and show you things not only about the world, but about yourself and about what they're doing.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about relationships and when you're doing talking about that relationship, we have to clarify my loving relationships or my really, really close in love relationships. And I was
Partner.
on a partner. Yeah, partner. I was on a call the other day where we were doing a Zoom meeting, and we were talking about love, and that was our last show, by the way. Revisiting love on that one, and it is a fantastic show, by the way. And these guys were talking about the difference between loving and in love and romantic love. And so I want to, before we hop into doing relationships, I want to be able to say, to kind of differentiate between those three. Romantic love, what I would call romantic love, would be when you fall head over heels in love with somebody, and that is a chemical high. It's really a fake
Yeah.
version of a relationship because you're so addicted to the other person, and it literally is true. Just go
I
look
don't-
at Helen Fisher stuff.
Yeah, but I don't think I'd use the word fake because it's still a relationship.
No. I know.
And it
I'm not
seems
talking
very
about fake
real.
relationship. I'm saying a fake love relationship. And the only reason that I say that it's fake is because until you get past it, you cannot really be the person that you are, because you end up changing yourself so much because it feels so good to be with the other person that you will pretty much do anything to be there. And that's change and do things and give things and be things that you wouldn't normally do. So when we're talking about romantic love, that's what I differentiate. That's that first in love stage that is literally an addiction to another person. Then we talk about in love, which was differentiated by another guy on the call. And I just went, oh, yeah, I get what you're saying. And so when we're talking about being in love with somebody, an in love relationship, we're talking about people in choice expressing that wonderful feeling of connection and joy and gratitude that goes into an in love relationship, right? And then there's loving, which is a loving relationship, which is with our best friends and our besties and our closest
Family
buddies and family, and that's loving. So in love, I guess when we look at it properly, in love, I would be saying describes a relationship where sexual intimacy is a high possibility, right? High probability.
Okay, but are you differentiating between the in love stage of a relationship?
No, that's romantic love stage is what I'm going to differentiate now. I'm going to say romantic love stage and in love, which is in a relationship, a loving partnership. Okay.
Okay, because I consider those opposites. The in love is the really high chemical thing where
I know, and that's what we had talked about before. And
Yeah.
the reason that I'm differentiating this now is because when I talk to most people and they say, "Oh yeah, I'm in a relationship. I'm in love with this person."
Right.
That romantic love
Okay,
could
I
have
see what-
passed by then, right?
Right, I see what you're saying.
So that I'm differentiating between the romantic love portion and the in love, and it's not even a phase, that being in love. Now, through the in love stuff, it can wear away and relationships can go sour too. So I'm not saying that that's like the perfect stage, but it is a stage. And being loving, which is towards other people, and you can have people that are closer and further. And so we got varying degrees of relationships, right? And that's where we want to hit. It's like, hey, okay, great. We have relationships with all living beings. What the heck does that mean?
I know, right?
And I think it's just like with all living beings, we have varying degrees of relationships, and we call them different things. We have
like friendship.
yeah, friendship is another one. If you haven't seen the show, go see it. But but friendships, but again, we have to define those things for ourselves. We don't really go, oh well, he's a friend of mine. And I see lots of people say that they're a friend of mine when they're really meaning they're an acquaintance, somebody that they see every once in a while, or they're not. I consider friends as people that are super trustworthy, that you can talk to and share things with and trust. And there's
like our besties are the only two who have keys to our house.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But we have friends who obviously don't have keys to the house and that I would consider friends. maybe not our BFFs, but, still I would rank them higher than anyone I would consider an acquaintance.
Well, and I think that
That probably came out wrong.
yeah. Well, I mean, here's
Yeah,
the thing.
you're not my bestie, but you're not an acquaintance, so somewhere in there?
Yeah. So what about what are we defining then? So if we're talking about a relationship and we're talking about okay, first off, let's go. I've got a relationship with my pet,
Yeah.
which is no less involved than a
God.
relationship with a really good friend.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah, but most of our friends aren't as crotchety as Slater.
that's true. Our cat is kind of old and crotchety, but that does happen with age.
Yeah, that is true. Old
But
man
I do
cat.
have a relationship with my pet, and
Yeah.
I have an emotional relationship with my pet. And I think that let's differentiate. I can say I have a relationship with the light, but I don't have an emotional relationship with the light.
No.
With people and things, I have an emotional relationship to.
Right.
And when I'm talking about an emotional relationship, I'm talking about emotional connection, emotional investment, even in the well being of that. And that has an effect on my well being as well. Right. So, to a degree, it's a reciprocal relationship on that level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
You give him food and he will let you touch him once in a
Yeah,
while.
let you touch him and purrs every once in a while. And
when he feels like it.
yeah, when he feels like it. So we definitely have a relationship to our pets.
Right.
And some people have a huge emotional attachment to their pets because I think when we're talking about the different degrees of relationship, and I think that you can say that your pet is your best friend ever.
Yeah.
Okay? I think that you can say that. And the reason that I say that is because the differing degrees of relationship has to do with trust and the availability of being vulnerable with it or them.
Right.
Okay? So it's sort of like if you've got a cat that loves to snuggle, and it's like, oh yeah, I love my cat, and he comes up and he snuggles on me, or a dog that just loves to be all over you, and that they're always glad to see you, and all of that stuff. So again, what we get from that on an emotional level is we trust that when we come home, that dog's tail is going to be wagging, and they're going to jump up on me, and they're going to greet me when I'm home, and it doesn't matter how it doesn't matter how crappy I've been, right? That day at work, or if I'm ticked off and I push the dog away, but the dog will come back later and still like me for who I am. So we build an emotional connection based on trust and based on the and it's more intimate the more trust we have, because we can be vulnerable. We can be a real person with that.
Well, and like it's still a needs-based relationship because especially for like an indoor cat, for example, or an animal who's in a cage.
Right.
They trust you to give them food, give them water, play with them, stuff like that. And you kind of rely on them to give you the love back so you feel fulfilled.
Right.
So.
Well, and I think that too is, some of the things that we describe relationship as. The closer the relationship, the more you kind of get from the person or the however that looks to people, as that we get interpersonal relationships are based on what we would consider trust. I mean, and I know that a lot of people that go into relationships, and even though one person says, yes, you're an acquaintance, you think they're a friend because that's the way you are. You're just open and trusting in that way. And then when the person doesn't call you, you're upset. And, we tend to create these expectations around other people, not knowing how it is that they are actually feeling about us.
Right.
But I think that relationships, like literally, the deeper the relationship, the more trusting you have to be with the person. The more, like we can even do it relatively like the more you've shared with them, right? Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay.
I think it depends on the personality because some people can't keep their mouths shut. So there's some people that you like to hang around and you enjoy being around them, but you wouldn't tell them your deep, dark secrets because then everyone would know or something
Right.
like that.
So in that situation, what would you consider that person? Would
A
you
friend.
consider that person a friend still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just
Okay.
not a close friend or a
Okay. So,
confidant.
or a trusted friend, I
Well,
guess.
no, no.
Hmm.
There are varying levels of trust.
Right.
So there's varying levels of friendship.
Okay.
Just because you can trust one friend with something doesn't mean you can trust all of them with it. You know.
Right. Of course. Well, I
So
mean, I guess that you can at least trust that person to blab about something if you give it to them.
yeah,
Right. It's like, yeah, there's trust
exactly.
there, right?
It's like the relative that you know, if you want everybody to know everything, you tell it to a certain relative, and then the whole family knows by the end of the day, or something like that.
Right. Well, and here we are talking about the relationships that we have with our relatives, and I think that when we take a look at where we can put people on that gradient scale, it's like I know people that are black and white. They go friend to enemy. If you've done one thing to betray their trust, you're their enemy forever, right? I've seen people do it.
Yeah, I think it depends on the type of betrayal, though, because
Well, it,
there are different types of betrayals, so you
I
can't just
agree.
lump them together.
And I know that there are some people that do lump it together. It's just
Yeah,
like it doesn't matter what kind of betrayal. If you
yeah,
lie to me at all, ever, if I ever catch you lying to me, you're gone. Um, and I'm not poo-pooing that. That there are just people like that.
right,
I find that kind of black and white thinking doesn't allow for all the gradients and the gradients in relationship as well,
right.
right? So, I mean, I group people in actually lumps in my life. I go, okay, um, you are somebody that I don't know, right?
Right.
I have a relationship with you, but I don't know who you are. I don't really like you're on my scale of I bumped into you, right?
Right.
you know, I do have a relationship with you, but it is very, very slight. It's not involved. There's
Surface.
not a lot of emotional. Yes.
Surface.
There's not a lot of emotional
Yeah.
investment or even sharing there.
Right.
And we go up a level and I just go to acquaintances. When I look at acquaintance, for me, it is somebody that I enjoy
Mm-hmm.
doing activity. Like say I like to do one activity with them. I'm a avid disc golfer, and so maybe I bump into them every once in a while on the disc golf course, and we chat about this and that, and but we also recognize that our personalities aren't such that, oh, I'm going to give you a call, we're going to go out for a beer, we're not going to get any closer than that, right? It's
Right.
just, it's an acquaintance. We enjoy each other's company for the time that we spend with each other, but there's just no further emotional connection that we require from each other or
Right.
want, right?
Now, when you bump that up to the friend you say you go for coffee with, or a beer, or out to
Mm-hmm.
dinner, but you don't go hang out at their house. Maybe you
Right,
don't know their family, or you have met their family, but you don't hang out with their family, that kind of
right,
thing. Um, but again, it's still kind of surface to a point. Because there's other friends like you and I, we've gone out for coffee, but we have a deeper emotional connection, or we don't see them for a couple of years. And when we do see them again, it's like pressing, it's an old analogy, pressing resume on the VCR. You
right.
can just pick up where you left off however many years ago. It doesn't matter. You know you love each other, and life just gets in the way.
Yeah,
And,
re-hitting the play button and it just
yeah,
starts from where it
yeah,
was.
exactly. But but again, you only hang out to go for coffee. That doesn't
Right,
mean they're any less of a friend just because you don't see them that often. When you're actually seeing other people who are less of a friend, and I don't mean that the way it sounded, um, I guess not as intimate of a friend. Um, so again, it's just, I think, availability. I think common interests. I think um, close to where you where you live. I mean, there's a lot of different factors
Right.
that tie into this. It doesn't mean you're any less of a friend, but it also doesn't mean you're any more of a friend. I think once you get into friends, then that's when the intimacy is going to come in.
You differentiate differently with friendships than I do, and I go,
I know, right?
yeah, I do, because I go close acquaintanceships, right, which are the people that I like to
Oh,
hang out with, right.
okay.
I can hang out with them, and we go out every once in a while, right, and we enjoy each other's company. We talk about things that are similar, but we don't really make time for each other. Would probably be the best way that I could put that. I call those close acquaintanceships,
Okay.
right? And these are people that I cannot say that I've shared some really significant parts of
Right.
myself. There's only these parts that I share with those people,
Right.
right? When I talk about friendship for myself, and again, this is a gradient scale that I've created, and all I'm doing here is demonstrating that a lot of the times we don't really even know where people are on any scale in our lives. We just go, oh, they're my friend, right?
Right.
Which covers this vast field of acquaintanceship
Yep.
to somebody I just know in passing
Yep.
to, right? Like I mean, buddy is another one that people use a lot. Is my
Right.
buddy. So
Right.
buddy would be somebody that I hang out and smoke a joint with or something. Like we share one activity, right? You know, it might be a buddy. So when I talk about friendship, that's somebody that has a level of trust in my life
Right.
that what you're saying is like that, yeah, we may not talk for like 5 years,
Yeah.
but 5 years down the road we're going, how's it going, and we really have an emotional connection where we super like each other. We
Right.
super have that emotional connection, but we don't have a life that's parallel. Do you understand?
Right.
We
Right.
don't have lives that parallel each other.
Right.
So in relation to each other, we're sort of like on opposite ends of the spectrum,
Yeah.
but we have a kinship, a
Or
relationship, right?
or an intimacy.
Yeah, this is a shared intimacy that is backed by a certain amount of trust, and we have that going for us. And so when I
Right.
talk about somebody that's a friend, there is definitely a massive amount, a lot more trust in it than acquaintanceship for me,
Yeah.
and a lot more loving expression. And when I say that specifically because even acquaintances I love, right, on the level of the human being that they are, right? They're not as connected to me, but
Right.
I do have that healthy love, respect that I would give, the benefit of the doubt to almost anybody.
Right.
So
Right.
when I go into friendship, there's a lot more closeness to this and a lot more ability to express loving gratitude, joy. Okay.
Okay.
So when I talk about friends, I'm not talking about like besties because anybody in that category is closing in on that. I have best friends and I have other friends. I guess I don't. I guess really I don't. I don't have a gradient there because
No.
all of the people that I consider friends are friends. They are allowed to come over. They are allowed to call me if they're in trouble. They have that I will make time for them. Right?
I was gonna say, but not everybody has the free pass to come over.
Well, no. I know that, but that's a thing of between you and I, right? When we say like not everybody, but again, they're all
Which
of the
sounds
people that
really controlling. That
what
really
what
is.
well, no, but all of the people that I consider friends are like that
Yeah, that's
in my
true.
life. Okay, all of them.
Yeah.
Right?
You don't just
They
show
are-
up at the door
they-
and, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, like
no.
I mean, I don't have a lot of buddies and I don't have a lot of acquaintances, right? I have some people that I disc golf with and that we share a passion for a sport, right? And having a passion for a sport really brings you together. And yes, there is relationships there, but they're acquaintances. They're not friendships because we do not share a lot of the intimate points in our lives. It's like they wouldn't come up to me and say, Drew, I'm having a bad time in my relationship. And, do you have any advice, or I just need to offload this to help somebody. They wouldn't do that because there's no trust there between us yet, right?
Okay.
They wouldn't trust me just as much as I wouldn't trust them. And it's not, I'm not looking at this from a standpoint of I don't trust you. I'm looking at this of there is no affinity for the other person there yet. And that's we've not shared any intimate moments that allow us to build trust. And I think that what happens is it is those moments that build the trust, just intimate moments that we can share with each other where we are feeling vulnerable and we don't get attacked, that build the trust thing.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, I've got acquaintances, right, which is a varying degree. Like, this is a close acquaintance. This is just as somebody that I just met or that I kind of like, right? Mm-hmm. That it's a possibility of becoming a friend.
Right.
There is a friend, which is somebody that I trust and have a lot more emotional intimacy with than I do with anybody that's in the category of acquaintance.
Right.
And then there is the ultimate friendship, which is what I call our relationship with our sexual partner, or our what we consider our partner, our wife, our husband, when we're talking about a monogamous or even a polygamous relationship. In that, I've never met a polygamous relationship that's working that way, but I am definitely not an expert in any sense of the word. The ones that I have been mostly involved in have been monogamous relationships. So when I'm talking about this, I'm coming from that standpoint of saying, now we're talking about an in-love relationship. Okay. That includes sexuality, that includes a lot deeper intimacy, right? So right. Stuff that you would probably never tell even your bestie, your partner can have the possibility of knowing in this relationship, right? So there's basically three categories for me. There's acquaintance, there's friend, and there's in-love friend. So relationship. I call it in-love friend because, as far as I'm concerned, if you don't have a friendship there, if you're not able to bring the qualities of a really good friendship, or of your bestie, the person that you can tell everything to, all of that stuff. Right. If you can't bring that into that relationship, then
what are you doing?
Yeah, what are we doing? What are we doing here? So, and I can share a lot of love with my cat, by the way. Right? Like, yeah, I tell my cat that I love the cat every day.
And you try to talk to him about serious stuff. He just looks at you like, what?
Yeah. Well, on some levels, you're just talking to yourself. But
yeah. No kidding.
As long as there's a really good rubbing or scratching behind the ears, he doesn't care. Just talk to me. Okay, whatever.
That's true.
But I think that on a relationship level, I think that we have a lot of problems, and one of them is that we don't really have the delineating lines of what that really means to us. So that's why I use the three categories. This is an acquaintance. And I go inward and I check inwardly. I just go, is this person acquaintance? Or is this somebody that I really feel connected to and trust and stuff, right? And to the most part, most people are acquaintances, and some are close acquaintances and some aren't. Then there are the people that I consider friends, which are the criteria. And this is, when we're talking about criteria, everybody's got different criteria. Yep. But I think that we don't want to get caught up in defining what those criteria are or should be, because it's different with each individual that we run into.
It's criteria, right? Not criterias.
Yeah, criteria. And so we've got different criteria for every person that we run into. There could be somebody that loves sushi, it is their passion, and you could absolutely hate sushi, right? But if you have the criteria of nobody's a friend of mine if they don't love sushi,
Well,
right?
it's like the seafood thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up eating it. I grew up fishing every year. You grew up in Alberta. I
Yeah,
think
that
there's
the
your answer
seafood
right
capital
there.
of Canada.
Yeah,
Woohoo.
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So
Irony.
and that was a big thing when we first got together. It's like, oh, you eat seafood. I mean, you used
I
to.
didn't say that.
No, no.
I
'Cause
don't
back
care
then
if
you
you
were
do.
still eating clam chowder and tuna noodle
Yeah.
casserole,
And I
which you
can't
don't eat
do
now.
it. I
No.
can't even do that anymore. So
Which is fine because it's like, you know, you're at a gig or out doing a disc golf day, I can make myself fish and you buy me the poke stuff from Thrifties, which is great. And, you know, so it's not because someone brought that up, excuse me, someone brought that up to me after we were first together. It's like, he doesn't eat seafood? That's just weird, you know? And it's like, he just doesn't eat seafood. There's things I don't eat.
right.
You know, and
Exactly.
it's like, what, I'm gonna dump him because he doesn't fish or hunt or want to eat, you know, stuff that he's fished or hunted, you know. And like, you know, I know some people love a food so much that something like that's a deal breaker, or they work in that industry. Maybe they're a butcher and so they bring home cuts of meat, and maybe their partner's a vegetarian, you know.
Right.
And something like that can be a deal breaker. Maybe
Right.
that's all they can afford, you know?
Right.
And it's like, I don't begrudge any of that, you know? I'm just saying for me, it wasn't a deal breaker that you didn't eat seafood. It's like, oh, more for me. Yay. You know? Or I don't cook it at home unless I'm by myself, but when we go out, I have it then.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, and you can cook it at home. You know that, but that's your own thing.
I just feel bad that when you're at a gig or we're at like someone's house and they're having a party, most of it's seafood. I love the text like, I ate a salad. Yay? I guess. Or are there any chips anywhere? You know.
So when we're talking about like relationship and you know what we consider, say, an intimate friend,
Right.
or somebody that we are in love with or in an in love relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I don't want people to get stuck on doing up lists because there's lots of psychologists and psychiatrists out there that go, oh, you have to list what you want and what you don't want and all that stuff, and
I know.
that's so unfortunate.
Well, okay. I'll just give you an example. I got out of a pretty not so great relationship when I was 25, and I think it was after I dated the next guy the following year. I was talking to some lady at work, and she's like, "Oh, you dating anyone?" I went, "No, not anymore." Oh, well, you know, you should probably make a list of what you want and what you don't want. So I actually did, you know, and one of them was I don't want to date a bald guy. But the thing with doing the list is, yeah, it's okay to have preferences and to put it out there. But if you meet the right person and you meet someone you just click and you just know, okay, this is it. That list doesn't matter. Really. The only thing on that list that really mattered when we got together was hygiene. You know, are you clean? Are your teeth clean? You know, that was it.
Luckily, both.
Mm-hmm. That was it. That's all I cared about. You know, it's like, so.
Well, I mean, and like I said, I think that lists are just as detrimental when we're
They can
talking
be.
about
I
making
think
a
they
list.
put toxic expectations on a relationship that doesn't even exist yet.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, certainly expectations on it.
Yeah.
And one of the stories that I relate, and especially around in-love relationships, that I remember when my mom was really, really wanting to get into an in-love relationship, and we ended up talking a fair amount about it. And she says, yeah, she's like, oh, I can't get together with a guy that has a dog. And I looked at her and I'm just like, what are you talking about? You have just said, if this guy's got a dog and he's running by, I'm not looking for a relationship with that guy. He's got a dog. Yet that could be your soulmate, right? That you would say, so he's got a dog, you know, because he checks all of these boxes inside of you that you have.
Right.
The dog is really irrelevant. And
Yeah.
like you're saying, it can be so detrimental to list all of the things that I want and don't want in a relationship that to do it without consciousness, which is what we tend to do. And when I say that, I'm going, it's like, oh, it's like he can't be bald, he can't be this. Like, I mean, when we're talking about physical attributes.
Yeah. Well, it's like I wasn't thinking ahead at the time. You know, mid-20s, I'm like, you know.
Right.
So.
But when we're talking about physical attributes and stuff that on a consequential level, when you get the emotional check marks in your inner box as checked, it doesn't matter what they look like, right? Yeah, it may absolutely matter to say, hey, I'm not going to kiss you if you don't brush your teeth.
Right. Well, I mean, where I'm coming from that also is my previous serious boyfriends before you were smokers. And it wasn't, everyone's like, oh, how can you date a smoker? It really was not, it wasn't like gross or anything, you know. So their breath smelled like cigarettes, but I mean, they both smoked outside. You know, they were both clean. I mean, yeah, it kind of would linger on the clothing, but it wasn't like being in a back before they had all the smoking laws where you couldn't smoke, where you can't smoke inside. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like being in a bar for 4 hours where you just come and you just reek afterwards. It wasn't like that, you know. So I was still able to kiss them because they still, you know, took care of themselves and they were clean. Mm-hmm. So like cigarette smoke never bothered me because they were clean.
Right. Well, and there are definitely some things that you want to write down. Yeah, I want to have somebody that's clean. I want to be, you know, and it may be even when you're dealing with somebody that even checks a bunch of those emotional boxes that we're looking for, that emotional compatibility or the fulfillment possibility, right. I guess.
Well, yeah. And back to that for a sec, I have that expectation of my partner. I would want my partner to tell me if I'm not fulfilling that. You know, oh, honey, your breath reeks. You know, go brush your teeth, take a breath mint or something. Or, ooh, you might want to put on some, you know, refresh your deodorant. Or, have you showered today? You know,
yeah, right.
It's like, no, if I feel like I have the, you know, if I'm going to say that to a guy, I better be prepared for him to say that to me. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I'm not like going, ooh, I'm controlling this guy because he better be clean, but that doesn't apply to me. It's like, no. It goes both ways.
Okay. Well, you know, and let's get into the possibilities of any kind of relationship. So when I look at acquaintances to friendships, when I look at acquaintances, they are all possible friends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They are
Absolutely.
all they have the possibility to become more than what they are. Right. And lots of times the acquaintances that I have are just, we're satisfied with being acquaintances. Right. Or we've spent some time together and they've gone, yeah, I don't want to get to know that guy anymore. Or, yeah, maybe I want to get to know that guy anymore. And I'm going, yeah, I don't want to get to know that person more anyway. Right? So, I mean, it's all definitely reciprocal and it's all based on all the filters that we have. Right. So don't get me wrong. Every relationship has its ups and downs, yeah. But it also has its potential to become friendship. And every friendship also has the possibility of becoming an in-love relationship. Okay? Now, that being said, it's when I'm looking at acquaintances, I'm not thinking that. I'm not going, well, this person has the possibility of becoming a friend. You know, this isn't something that I'm doing. And nor am I rating, going, oh, these guys are these guys are only acquaintanceships. I know
So
that.
I should not admit that I'm, know, admiring a guy's butt from afar or whatever.
Well, I mean, okay, well that's different. You have a relationship with the ass as opposed to the person, um, right?
It's just what came up. It's
Yeah.
not the first thing that attracts me. It's
It's
usually
just
the
like,
eyes.
I
But
have a
it's
relationship with that ass. You know.
well, I
All
can't
right,
take his
okay.
eyeballs. What am I supposed to do?
We're not. Anyway, we're not talking about that. So, back on
Okay,
topic. So when I'm talking about acquaintances, I'm not like in my brain going, "Oh, this guy or girl or whomever can be my friend."
Right.
Uh, I'm going that everybody's got that possibility in my life, no matter what, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, there's always a possibility of becoming more trusting and intimate with somebody as we go along. Like I
Right.
said, as far as I can tell, the ultimate intimacy is being in an in love relationship,
Right.
right? Whereas friendship is still a close level of intimacy. It's
It
like
can be,
if you,
yes.
yeah, it can be. And I mean, and to give you an example, it's like if you lose somebody, say you lost a pet, or you lost a friend, or you lost like somebody, somebody dies, and your friend comes over and they're holding you and you cry on their shoulder, and and they have a tremendous amount of love, and you share that, and that they care about
Right.
what's going on with you. They have a care. That can be a very intimate moment shared with a trusting friend, right?
Right.
That doesn't turn into, and I think that the biggest difference between a very very good friend and an in love relationship is the level of physical intimacy. And so when we're talking about intimacy, there's difference between physical intimacy and emotional intimacy. You can be very fairly emotionally intimate with a friend,
Yeah.
but you are not fairly physically intimate, and so therefore that's a limited factor in a friendship. What? Go ahead.
I was just say, it depends. Again, it's another one of those gradients because, like a lot of, especially my guy friends,
Mhm.
we hug when we see each other. We hug when we say goodbye.
Yes, but again, you're not going that extra mile, right?
No,
You know,
no.
you know, you're not slapping their ass, or unless it's
Sometimes.
all in fun, right? But
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it's
I
like,
mean, we have that kind of camaraderie beforehand that we know if one of us were to go, the other's not going to go, whoa, what are you doing? You're
yeah,
violating me. It's like, no, we're
there's
friends.
still an emotional
Yeah,
amount of trust and intimacy.
yeah. I know I can go to that point with my guy friends if it's actually, I judge it with like snark and sarcasm. Can you just needle each other? And I find that when you can just, kind of have fun like that, and then, nice to see you, type thing.
Well, what's an acquaintance, right? Like, I mean, even acquaintances hug sometimes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it could be just a thing. That's the way I greet, right?
Yeah.
Or I kiss you on your cheek. It's like acquaintances can do these things as well. But I think that the difference between an acquaintanceship and a friendship is, again, trust level
Yeah.
to the point
There is a
of.
level of trust. That's what I was
But
trying
here,
to get at.
here, what the difference between acquaintanceship and friendship for me is that no matter how quirky I am, my friends will hang out.
Yeah, they don't go running
Right?
away.
Your acquaintances will go, ugh, you're being a little weird. I'm gone. Right?
Either
Right?
that
Or
or
they might move further away when they see that. Right?
Or they
Whereas a
do
friend
the-
just accepts you for who you
Yeah,
are.
or they do
right?
the why are you acting this way in public?
Yeah. Well, and that's, for me, that's friendship. Now, wait a minute. For other people, friendship is how much you give me. Right? They define friendship for how much you give me. Reciprocal relationship. I give you stuff and you give me stuff. And I'm going to, what's wrong? I see your face.
No, it's just you brought up grief before, and it's like,
Right.
yeah, the whole having your friends commiserate with you till you say the wrong damn thing. Because honestly, most people don't know what to say when someone's grieving, whether it's a pet or a parent or a spouse or whatever, you know. And it's like, okay, doesn't mean they're being insincere. It's like some people just don't know what to say, you know. And then, you know, they can't ask you, what do you want me to say to you, you know,
Right.
type thing, you know. So then, you know, the whole bitching about it to other people, it's like, oh, they're just so inconsiderate, or oh my gosh, they didn't help me through this, or whatever.
Well,
it's like,
okay, we're gonna go into how relationships work in a minute. So, and I mean, what you're sort of jumping ahead almost.
sorry,
It's all good.
that's what popped into my mind of stuff you give me, and it's like, okay, but it's also can be contingent on what you say to a person, and if you say the wrong thing at the wrong time, oh my god,
Right.
you know, it's like, okay, you're not a relative, you know. Give me a break.